Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how I made a soil screen for my compost and my soil, and it's just a step-by-step instruction. Tells you things that to do and not to do, and at the very end I also show you some things that I did wrong, kind of some outtakes, and hopefully you enjoy it. So what you're going to need here are what I suggest. If you're frugal, or you have maybe you don't have all these things, you maybe can get creative and do it without them all. So the first step will be to trace the base. What I use is a just some stuff that I have laying around. So this happened to be 1/2 inch plywood, and I'm going to just go in a few inches from the edge is what I'm going to actually cut out. Throughout this video I will periodically stop talking and just let you watch, and jump back in every once in a while when there's something important that needs to be said. So in that case I'm going to let you watch as I go here, and I'll be back in a little bit. This is the board that I'm using just for blocking, and so it's not really super important, but mine happens to be 1 3/4 by about 35 inches. So here's a little trick that you can do when you have a board. You don't need these to be exact. I took 35 inches and divided that by 5 pieces that I need, which comes close to 7. Maybe not exactly, because I was about 34.5. But if you take the 7 inches off both either end, the middle size is close, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It's kind of a quick way to calculate out 5 pieces if they don't have to be exact. Now lay these down approximately 1/8 of an inch outside of the line of the wheelbarrow base, because we don't need this to be super tight. So, and then we're going to glue them. I'm going to glue them up, I'm going to let them set, and then we're going to do some other stuff. So hang on, I'll be right back. Alright, so while the glue is setting up, I'm going to start working on the screen frame. In this case, my opening size is 22.5 by 30. So I'm going to make the frame about 24 by 36. Basically what I'm saying here is you want it to be bigger than the opening, but not too big that it's going to be unwieldy and weird to slide and roll in there. So while I am getting these set up, again, this doesn't have to be a perfect science, and in my case I have a power nailer and I have a power saw and a power stapler, so I can use some of the power tools, but if you don't, you can of course just manually screw or nail. Pre-drill probably would be the best way. Pre-drill, and I'm using hard maple. These are leftover pieces from a skid that I dismantled, so they happen to be hard maple, which is really hard to work with. But anyways, I'll let you continue watching as I continue to make this now. Now I'm going to attach the corner pieces. Now these are just right angle triangle pieces that I cut out of plywood, and I'm just attaching each one in the corner. I'm not entirely attaching them because I got to square this thing up. And so one of the tricks that you can use to make sure you have a square is to measure your diagonals. So basically, if one way was 25.5, for instance, if one way was 25.5 and one way was 25, you would make them both 25.25, and that would be square. So in this case, I clamped at 25.5, tighten it up a little bit. If you don't have clamps, you have to get creative, but that's an easy way to square it out. You could also use a framing square if you like. I prefer to use this method. Okay, so here we are going to make the screen part. What you're going to need are tin snips, side cutters, and I am fortunate enough to have a power stapler, but you can use just a regular stapler as well if you have it. And some other way that some other YouTube people do it are with strips of wood, which you could use strips of wood over top of the screen and screw those down. That holds it too. And then I'm just going to go ahead and trace it out. I'm going to cut it here, and I'll let you watch those details, and I'll be back. I'm going to test out the coarse screen I made, and in this case I'm using some soil that these were old weeds that I'd pulled out, and I like to reuse the soil in them. I just let them dry out and then I reuse the soil because I'm thrifty. And I'm going to be testing another type of soil that is clumpy type of soil that I can't remember where I got that from, a flower bed or something, and it was clumpy. I don't know if there was clay in it or what type of soil I had, but it kind of looked clumpy, and I screened it down to make it much more usable. So you'll see that here coming up right away. Here I'm removing all the debris naturally. Okay, so here I have the fine screening. So I have the two gauges of wire, I guess you could call them. The coarse grain, and one was I would say, I guess, 1/2 inch screen, and this one is like 1/4 inch, I believe. So it's just a finer screen. Now, some people might recommend you make a whole new screen, but the easiest way, the best way, is you don't have to make a whole new frame. Just cut a piece of screen to fit inside of this one, and you take it in and you just remove that one if you don't want it, and it's really simple to use. And here you'll see me testing it out, and this is kind of the way that I've been doing. This is the way I use most of the time, is with this fine screen. And now I'll do some testing with that. May or may not have noticed was that I was using the screen wood right on top of the base, so I was just basically wood on wood, which is much harder to use. And I happen to have these wheels laying around. These were from, actually, I used to work for a window manufacturer, so these were meant for inside of windows that roll. So I had a whole an abundance of these that I could use up. And this is what I chose to use. You could also alternatively use something like a rollerblade wheels, or you could get creative if you had to. And before you begin the design, if you do have the wheels, you want to design around that, because in that case your plywood base might have to be a slightly different size if your wheels were mounted on the outside of the frame, for instance. So you'll have to get creative. This is step-by-step video, but you might not have exactly the same type of thing that I have, so I'll let you carry on here, and I'll see you in a little bit. So here I am doing a final test. This is fresh soil that I just kind of dug up here from this area. I'm removing these trees. I'm cutting these trees down here in a moment. So just kind of getting the soil level down and testing out the screen at the same time. Actually, I might link you to the video here of me how to safely cut down these trees that are between the houses. I have that video coming up very shortly, so I'll link it when it's up. And I'm going to show you a couple of different angles here of me doing this final screening. And if you just stick around to the end, you'll see how I hurt myself in the outtakes and a couple other fun ones. So that's a new thing that I'm trying. If you let me know in the comments if you like the outtakes, and if not, let me know as well. So thanks a lot. Hang on, and it'll be up here in a second. making something.
What?
Show your slimmer.
There you go, Dad.
Go play in the yard, please.
Watch you do that.
Alright, there we go. So thanks again for watching these videos. Let me know what you think, and if you notice, I have some other playlists with the Sugru moldable glue and how to fix your taps and how to make a wig and all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you check out the playlist. Thanks again.